It is not a plain cloth, but a mysterious one, imprinted with a faint and negative image of a man's face and body, front and back, as if he had been wrapped in it. It is not a simple cloth, containing traces of pollen, dust, fibers, and DNA from different places and times. It's anything but a silent piece of cloth. It tells a story of suffering, death, and resurrection. It is about 4.4 meters long and 1.1 meters wide, and it has been folded and rolled many times over the centuries. It is not a pure white cloth, but a yellowish-brown one, stained by dirt, water, fire, and blood. It is the Shroud of Turin. What is the Shroud of Turin, and why is it so controversial? How did it come to be, and where has it been for the past 2,000 years? How can we explain the remarkable features of the image on the shroud, which defy natural and human explanations? Around 1389, Pierre d'Arcy, the Bishop of Troyes, France, sent a report to Pope Clement VII, accusing the shroud of being a fraud. He claimed that he had evidence that an artist had admitted to painting the image of the crucified man on the cloth, and that the dean of the Lire Church was aware of the deception and had used it to exploit the people's credulity. He also said that the shroud had been previously denounced by his predecessor, Henri de Poitiers, who had ordered its removal from public display. The Pope, however, did not condemn the shroud outright, but rather issued a compromise. He declared that the shroud was not the true burial cloth of Christ, but a man-made religious icon that could inspire devotion. He allowed the Lire Church to continue to exhibit the shroud, but only if they clearly stated that it was not a genuine relic. He also granted indulgences to those who visited the shroud, thus giving it a certain legitimacy. The Pope's decision did not settle the controversy, but rather opened the door for more debates and investigations over the centuries. Pope Francis, who venerated the shroud in 2013, described it as an icon that invites us to contemplate the mystery of God's love. In 2010, the shroud was displayed for 6 weeks and more than 2 million people came to see it, even though a carbon dating test in 1988 had pronounced it a fake from the medieval period, between 1260 and 1390. That was supposed to end the debate, but that did not stop the crowds who lined up for hours to get a brief glimpse of it in quiet awe. Nor did it stop the scholars who believed the carbon dating results were simply incorrect, such as art historian Thomas de Wesselow. De Wesselow, who is an agnostic and was initially skeptical about the shroud, has recently published a controversial new book about it in which he claims it is authentic. He contrasted it with artworks depicting the crucifixion made after the Middle Ages, pointing to the Station of the Cross at the Church of St. Ignatius Loyola in New York City. "You can see the nails go through the middle of the palms on the cross," he showed Teichner. "That part of the hand is not strong enough to support the weight of the body." On the other hand, the image on the shroud shows the nail wounds going through the wrists. "That's how they would have done it in Roman times," said de Wesselow, suggesting that the shroud is much older than the Middle Ages. He said the shroud shows evidence of the events from Good Friday to Easter Sunday. "You begin with the flagellation, and that's very clearly shown on the shroud with these very, very distinct marks of the flagrum," he said. "You can then see the crown of thorns. He then is beaten, and you can see on his face under his eyes there's a swelling. His nose looks as if it's been broken. There is also the mark of a spear puncture with trickles of blood coming down." De Wesselow's theory on the resurrection paints a vivid picture of what might have occurred on Easter Day, when Mary Magdalene and 2 other women visited Jesus' tomb. As they approached the body, removing the cloth, an eerie image revealed itself on the fabric, he explained. Instantly they would have sensed a living presence in the tomb with Jesus. So they didn't witness Jesus coming back to life. No, what they witnessed was the shroud, de Wesselow asserted. Upon seeing the shroud, they realized that he hadn't been resurrected in the flesh, but in the spirit. According to de Wesselow, every alleged appearance of the risen Christ was in fact an appearance of the shroud. He firmly believes that it played a pivotal role in the rapid growth of Christianity. The shroud journeyed from Jerusalem to Galilee, then Damascus, where Paul is thought to have encountered it and converted to Christianity. Later it reached Edessa in Turkey, and by 944 arrived in Constantinople. A drawing from the 1190s, possibly depicting the shroud, exists. A French knight wrote about seeing such a cloth in Constantinople before the city was plundered by crusaders in 1204. "We can logically trace the shroud's path all the way back to the 1st century, de Wesselow stated. more than 1,000 years before appearing in Liège, France, where Geoffroy de Charny displayed it in 1355. It had been in Turin, Italy since 1578. Harold Attridge, Dean of Yale Divinity School, expressed his view on de Wesselot's book. It could very well be the burial cloth of Jesus. I wouldn't rule out that possibility. However, he added that the speculative part is understanding how the discovery of this cloth might have influenced beliefs about the resurrection. At least the way this image was produced aligns with the ancient practice of crucifixion, Attridge affirmed. So that is at least believable, and the blood stains, for instance, are clearly not paint. In the recent investigation, forensic scientists utilized blood pattern analysis to explore the necessary arm and body positions that would result in the observed pattern on the shroud. By experimenting with a living volunteer and a mannequin in various poses, researchers concluded that the patterns were consistent with multiple positions, challenging the theory that Jesus was buried lying down in the cloth. Published in the Journal of Forensic Science, the study focused on the stains of the left arm, aiming to establish consistency between the hand and forearm stains. The researchers used synthetic and real human blood in various experimental poses and concluded that the blood patterns would have to occur at different times, and a particular sequence of events or movements would have to be imagined to account for these patterns, according to their report. Matteo Borini, a forensic scientist at Liverpool John Moores University in England, who worked on the project, said the study showed how forensic science can be applied to ancient mysteries. This was the original idea of this test, to show the potential of forensic sciences outside the crime scene, Borini said. This is my message to my students, to see the potential of a multidisciplinary approach. Borini, a Roman Catholic, said his findings, which he said had caused some backlash and personal attacks from some religious people, are in line with the Church's view. The Roman Catholic Church considers the shroud to be an icon, not a holy relic. Victor Whedon, chairman of forensic sciences at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., said he was skeptical of this analysis, and said there was no reason to assume that the body was not moved while being transported. "We're not dealing with things we really know about," Whedon said. "We just don't know if this cloth was laid on someone who just laid there or was wrapped around the body or moved some before being put in a particular place." That's a wrap for this video. We would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the Shroud of Turin. Do you think it is a genuine relic or a clever hoax? What do you think of the latest forensic research on blood patterns? Do you think the shroud has any spiritual or symbolic value? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Mystery, where we explore history's most captivating mysteries. Thanks for watching.